To the Think and Connect podcast. Today I have a guest on, and it's been quite a while since we've done a podcast, so I'm really excited about today's episode. He is 26 years old and grew up in Nelspruit and studied at Vega in Durban. After his studies, he started a digital marketing business called DisruptX in 2020, and he's worked with brands like Investec, OUTsurance, and the Glenlivet. And he's really passionate about content marketing, lead generation, and brand building. And this is something that I'm really excited to talk about because it's something that I might be going into shortly. So, Gidyon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's awesome to be chatting to you again. The last time we were chatting was in Singapore. I don't know if you want to get into that in the episode at all, but yeah, it's really good to be catching up. And I'm keen to actually hear what made you want to get into this space and what you're interested in when it comes to digital marketing.
Awesome. So, kids, let's kind of start with your business and like how you kind of got into that.
Yeah, so when I was in varsity from 2016 until 2018, I did a 3-year degree in digital marketing, and then I worked for an entrepreneur in South Africa in 2019, and I had like a full-time job. I was a salaried employee for that whole year. And then, but obviously the reason why I did that is also because I wanted to learn from someone who knows how to build businesses. So I wanted to sort of, experience or just understand what entrepreneurship was like from the inside without having the risk of having to do it myself. And so I did that in 2019. And then one of the things we actually did was I set up a PTY. So I registered a private company, and we actually did it for tax efficiency. So just to be smart so that I could invoice X amount of what I was earning, and then the rest would be paid as salary. So it made sense to the company I was working for. It made sense for me. And it was also just an opportunity to learn, how to register PTY and basically create a corp or build the company from the ground up. But it was never the plan to actually run it. And then that business that I was working for closed down at the end of 2019. And so I had this choice where it was like I could either take the skills that I have and start my own thing, just take the risk. I've already got the PTY registered. I built a bit of a network, or the other option would be to go and find another job and go and work for an agency. And yeah, I just, end of 2019 in December, I just thought, let me go for it. Why not? Don't really have too many responsibilities. I can take the risk. If worst comes to worst, I'll sleep in my car. I'll make a plan. So yeah, that's, so I just went for it. That's kind of how it started, but it definitely wasn't like a planned out thing.
Epic. Yeah. That gives inspiration to people who are looking to, I don't know, who are just out of university and looking to do something. Maybe they don't want to go into like a corporate job, or, someone who's not enjoying the job and wants to, just try work remotely like you do. It's really cool. So let's dive into kind of like what exactly is digital marketing, because that's pretty much what your business does, right?
Yeah, so digital marketing is very broad. There's a lot of things that fall under that. It's sort of like an umbrella term for a huge industry with lots of different niches within that. But really what it is if you think of how businesses used to grow back in the day, before the internet, it was word of mouth. So it was your reputation, and people would come and buy goods or services from you, and then they would go home and tell their friends and family and colleagues about that. And that's how word would spread, and that's how your business would grow. And so really, like, all digital marketing is replicating that exact same thing, but using modern tools that we have, like the internet and social media. So it's really the same thing. It's building reputation, building word of mouth. Just obviously we've got some cool tools so we can do it at scale. Epic.
So I actually paid for a course a couple of years ago to learn how to do what you do. And it was a lot to take in because there were so many different platforms. They were doing lead generation and stuff through Facebook. They were using Google. They were using even LinkedIn as a platform to, generate leads for businesses. So your particular business, is that what you specialize in, generating leads for businesses?
Yeah, so it's obviously a little bit different for each client. We're small enough still that we haven't really focused on one thing, but we offer a couple of different things. And we started out doing content production and social media management. And that was purely based on those were the skills that I had at hand, and I could easily solve people's problems with those skills. So that would be, coming into a business and finding out, what story they're trying to tell, and then interviewing the founders, creating video content, creating basic graphic design content and posting that out, and basically, starting to build their brand using content. And so that's how it started. But I think as we've grown and as I've learned a bit more about how marketing works and understood it, end to end, not just the content and the social media side, I've become really passionate about like working closely with the sales team and understanding like what we can do online and through lead gen, what we can do to bring in qualified leads for the sales team and then build out that whole funnel. So I think that's definitely where I would like to head, because I don't know, it's quite a tough problem to solve. It's really important. And when you get it right, you can just see the change in a business when there's all of a sudden activity and the salespeople are like frenzied because there's so many leads coming in and they're growing the sales team. So I'm definitely interested in that. So it'll probably be the combination of great content and lead gen.
Nice. So I didn't even know that you actually created the content. I thought it was just purely lead generation. So so for people who don't have no idea how to create content, like right now, that's pretty much what we're doing. We are creating content. We're recording an episode of a podcast, but like for you and what you do, how would you go about creating content for a business or a client?
I think so. It's definitely not like a cookie cutter approach. I would look first at a business and say, what have you guys done in the past that's worked really well? Like some businesses might have a great presence on LinkedIn just because of the founders and the people working for the business have got good connections. And so LinkedIn might be the platform for them. And then they might try and say, look, but we need to be on every single platform. We need to be putting out YouTube videos and podcasts and Instagram content and stuff. And we might actually step in and say, like, look, you don't worry about being on every platform. Like rather find out what's been working in the past where you've got an audience, and then take it a step further and say, what are people engaging with? Like, what do they want to see? We have to think about your customer. Like, what do we need to tell them? What do we need to show them that's going to build trust in what you guys do? And then that might turn out to be a podcast. It might turn out to be a video series. It might be quotes. It can be anything, but it's really thinking at that higher level of saying, well, what, almost like reverse engineering and saying like, what do we need to say to push these people in the right direction? So I think that's the approach. It would be that approach as opposed to saying, it has to be video for every business. It has to be, X, Y, and Z for every business. It's more custom, I'd say.
I see. Okay. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. So for the listeners who have no idea what this is, and I really wanted to touch on it because I think you could give us like a good sort of brief explanation of SEO, which is search engine optimization. Do you do that? And if so, could you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm definitely not an SEO expert, something that I've been learning about this year. So I can share some high level stuff that I've learned, but you might have to bring on like a full-time SEO expert if you want to get like really in-depth answers. But essentially all it is, SEO stands for search engine optimization, and a search engine is something like Google. And essentially when people want to look for goods or services these days, they will often go onto Google and search, optometrist near me, or Nike sneakers for sale, or something like that. And so they'll actually go straight to a search engine to find the product or service that they're looking for. And when you hit search on that, you will see that Google creates results for you, which are ranked. So obviously the results that come up at the top and are the most visible, the fastest, are the best ranked, and the ones that end up on page 100 that you don't see are sort of the worst ranked, if that makes sense. So SEO is really the practice of trying to tweak your website and add content to your website and, basically tweak the mechanics of your website so that Google views it as a really valuable resource. So that when people search the thing that you provide, you go as high as you can on those rankings. And I hope that wasn't complicated, but essentially the point is that when people are looking for something, they find you easily. So that's kind of the reward.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And how important is keyword research in that process?
Yeah, it is important. So like I said, this is something I've been learning this year as well. I didn't know it was so in depth. I did like a whole hour session with an expert who I brought in to help me on a client for keyword research. And we spent like an hour and we ended up with 8 keywords or key topics. And so, it's important because it has to be relevant to what people are searching, and it can be the smallest, difference. So I'll give you an example. So one of our clients, they do HR recruiting video software. And so people who are looking for that service or that software might search one-way video interviews, but they might also search one-way video interview platform, one-way video interview software, or on-demand video interviews, or on-demand asynchronous interviews. So you got to try and think of all the things that people are searching, and not just think
Mm-hmm.
of it, but actually look at the data and see what people are searching, and then make sure that those keywords are embedded throughout your site, so that when Google ranks your site, it's seeing that, oh, you're actually talking about these things that people are searching. So it's really important, but it takes a long time to figure it out. And, it's a long journey.
Yeah, I know from creating these YouTube videos. So obviously YouTube also you have to put in your keyword research, and I had a crack at Amazon FBA. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's
I'm not, no.
basically okay. It's basically it's fulfillment by Amazon. So you basically manufacture products. I was doing them in China and then selling using Amazon's platform to sell them. And keyword research was like the most important thing for that exact reason, because you obviously wanted to pop up and like when people are searching for like, I don't know, foam rollers, and the words have to be like bang on. So it needs to be foam rollers and all lowercase. And if that specific keyword is in your listing, then there's a high possibility that yours will be the first or second one to pop up. So keyword research is very, very important when it comes to that.
How does it work with YouTube as well? I remember you told me this in Singapore. You said that you've spent time researching how YouTube works and stuff. And this is actually something that I don't know a lot about. Like, how do you, can you use SEO and keyword research, that kind of thing, to rank your YouTube videos better?
So there's two ways to do it. So I actually use an app called TubeBuddy, which you can pay. It's like $7 a month or something. And it basically, it's the algorithm that helps you with keyword research. But there's also people who, like the first guest I ever had on this podcast, Dan, he's really tech savvy. He does Amazon FBA. He's really, really, really been doing it for a long time. He's really good with his keyword research, and he actually does it manually. And I advise anyone who is interested in, learning this to go and check out Dan's YouTube channel, because there's heaps of good content there. And he actually uses spreadsheets, and he goes through for each video, really, really in-depth sort of keywords. He goes onto YouTube, he sees like the most searched in the last month, and he looks at the graphs, and like he goes in real depth. But I just use the cheat and just use TubeBuddy, but it's not as effective because it's an algorithm. It doesn't always give you the best keywords. You know what I mean? It's much better to take the time and do it manually. So that's actually something that I'm also learning, just like you. But with YouTube, what it will do is when you post the video, there's a little box there that asks you what keywords you want to have, and you can only have a limited amount. So for anyone looking to drive traffic to their YouTube videos, what you should do is you should put your main keywords in the keyword box, and then underneath in your description, like you said on the website, is where you put all the other keywords. You try to how do I say, like kind of add them in. So make a description about your video, but using those keywords, and then have it written out nicely. So that's how you do it with YouTube. Sense. I'm sure. Yeah, it's the same as like with a website. So Gids, sorry.
No, I was going to say, and one thing about the SEO that I've learned through this client is that the thing that they're offering is not actually, it's got very low search volumes because it's quite new. So not a lot of people are actually going on and searching one-way video interviews, as opposed to like the number of people searching, accounting services or doctors or physiotherapists or something. So the search volume is very low. So I can imagine with YouTube as well, like if you've got a video that's quite niche, that it's not, it's like the SEO is powerful when it's something that a lot of people are searching. Like that's when it really matters, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So Gids, I want to know it's epic what you've done. I mean, 26-year-old, you got your own business going. So I want to know, it's obviously not been an easy journey to get to where you are. Do you know what I mean? So what have been like the biggest challenges for you when starting up DisruptX?
Yeah. I mean, you've got a lot of time because I can go through all of them. No, honestly, it's been, I think the number one thing is not being the bottleneck yourself and hiring a team and making it bigger than just a one-man show. So look, there's lots of things that are hard along the way. Like it's lonely. You don't know anything when you start. You might have one or two strengths, but then basically everything else is a weakness. So you might start and be great at creating content and sales, for example, like you're very extroverted, but then you realize you're terrible at bookkeeping, you're terrible at operations, at responding to emails. So I think that was hard in the beginning, is that, you just really don't know anything and you have to lean on your strength and just sort of get punched in the face while you bring all your other things up to speed. But I think the number one thing is finding people and investing in people and then trying to build it bigger than just yourself. And I'll give you an example. So I had 2 full-time employees last year, for the whole year, but I barely paid myself anything. So
Okay.
I basically was running everything just to make sure that I could cover their salaries first, then I would pay rent, and then I would pay whatever subscriptions we needed, whatever invoices for accounting, that kind of thing. And there would be almost nothing left for myself. This year, I did a bit of restructuring. I sort of changed the way that I ran things. I tried it to be, I wanted it to be more efficient. So I cut down the 2 employees. It was just myself. I did a lot more of the fulfillment of actually creating the content and doing the strategy. And then I used 1 or 2 freelancers here and there. And so now I'm paying myself a lot more. So I'm earning good money, but now I'm super busy. So I don't have the same freedom that I had last year. So it's kind of this, chicken and the egg situation. And I was actually speaking to someone yesterday at an event, and he's in the same space as me, but a couple of years ahead, and he's built a team of 20 people. And he was like, you have to invest in great people and pay yourself less and have a long-term vision. So I think that's been the number one challenge for me personally. Maybe there's people out there who are better with people and building teams and stuff, and they might find that easier. For me, that's been the number one thing so far. Yeah. What would you say, for yourself, building the podcast, looking at these other ventures?
So the biggest challenge for me was learning how to basically edit from scratch. That was a big one. And then getting the sound quality right and all of that. When it came to, because I've had a few ventures that I didn't stay disciplined and follow through with them. And that was the biggest challenge for me, is just consistency. And this podcast has actually been the most consistent thing that we've done. Me and Nicola, unfortunately, she's not here today, but this is the most consistent thing that I've done so far. And I'm going to keep it going because, I really enjoy talking to guests like you. But yeah, consistency for me was just sticking with it. You know what I mean? And not losing interest when the going gets tough. So those were valuable lessons that I learned for sure.
And looking ahead, let's say you were to, take on a new business venture and move away from teaching and stuff, and you were to dive in and go for it and say, for the next 2 years, I'm going to commit to building my business. What would you anticipate the most challenging things being, looking ahead?
To be honest, coming from a job where you get a salary at the end of every month, you have your medical covered and your housing, I think for me, and then you work from 9 to 5, and then that's the end of your workday. I think when it comes to running a business, there's no off button. Do you know what I mean? You have to deliver value all the time. So you have to deliver for your clients. For example, when we were in Singapore, there was a day when all the boys went out, and I remember you had to sit and you had to finish a project for one of your clients because, it needed to be done. So I think that getting into that mindset and that shift away from, I'm clocking off at 5 o'clock because, I feel like it, and actually saying, well, if I don't do this, then it's not going to get done and the business is not going to be successful. So I think just, making that switch to being fully committed all the time is going to be one of the biggest challenges, I think.
Yeah. I definitely experienced that as well. Especially when you're working underneath someone who's quite driven and, they're sort of creating the energy. You don't realize how much you are feeding off that until you then on your ace and you realize you have to self-generate all this, drive and energy. But I think on the plus side of that as well is that it's very rewarding as well. So that kind of inspires you. So you do have a different level of determination, I guess, to just get things done. And it's, I didn't have that necessarily when I had a job, but I found that when you're building it for yourself or with a partner or something like that, then you do sort of tap into a different level of, okay, let's get this shit done.
Yeah, it builds resilience for sure. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the challenge for sure. But have there ever been any moments where you've been like, I'm done, I don't want to do this anymore?
Never,
Okay.
never ever. So never ever I'm done. But there's been lots of moments where I'm like, man, I'm over digital marketing. I want to start a security company, or I want to buy and sell arms, or I want to do something cooler,
Yeah.
There's been times where I've definitely looked at digital marketing and I've looked at a business, my business model. But yeah, I think over the last couple of years, so never give up, but just change and do something that I enjoy more. But then, I don't know, it was weird. Over the last sort of year, I just realized if I can just push through this and keep doing this and structure a business that, also gives a cool lifestyle, so it's fun along the way. Do that for 10 years, and you've got a huge advantage over someone who's sort of bounced around to 5 different things, 10 different things each year. And I've seen that I have friends who are like, really talented, really smart, driven entrepreneurs, but they just bounce from idea to idea. And so they never consistently build something over 5 to 10 years. And whenever I look at like business owners that I try and get advice from them online or whatever it is, it seems to be the same theme. Just stick at it for a long time and eventually you will be like one of the best. So yeah, that's kind of the mindset.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because speaking of consistency and the reason why some of my ventures weren't successful, I've looked now and look back at like my friends who are also in corporate jobs, like they work in corporate jobs, but they've stuck with the same job and they've been in the same industry for like 6-7 years now, and they are making progress. And I look back at a lot of people who are successful, and consistency is probably one of the most important things. You just got to stick with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just got to keep that going. So now, kids, lead generation, we did touch on it, but we haven't really explained to the listeners what it is. So can you kind of explain what exactly lead generation is and how that works?
Yeah, that's easy. So your business needs sales to grow. In order to have sales, you need leads, which means people who could be potential buyers. They're not buyers yet, but they are sort of coming into your funnel, and you really have to convert them into a sale. And so lead generation is really just the process of trying to reverse engineer where you can find these people, how you can offer them something or somehow get them interested in your business so that you can get their contact information, so that you can book a time to speak to them, or you can get them onto your product page, depending on whether you're in services or products, and then turn those people, convert them into sales. So yeah, so lead gen essentially is just the process of going out and finding potential buyers.
Okay, and how many of those buyers, what sort of percentage convert?
So that would be entirely different depending on the caliber of your sales team and the length of your sales cycle and the type of product that you're selling. So yeah, so one of the clients we're working with now, the way we've built it out is we know that if we get 4 presentations, that we will convert 1 in 4 of them. So
Okay.
it's selling a
25%.
software, 25%. So 1 in 4.
That's a good conversion rate.
Exactly. Yeah. So we know that we need 4 people to convert 1 of them into a customer. Yeah. So we know what the average deal cycle is in terms of when you have the presentation versus when the money lands in your account. We know that that's 60 days. And so we've got quite a cool model mapped out where we know what we're willing to spend to acquire a presentation based on the conversion of presentations into customers, and then based on the average deal value of each customer. So for example, like we know we're willing to spend 4,500 Rand to get someone just into a presentation, because if we get 4 people in there, we'll convert 1 of them. And then the average deal value on that one then pays off the money we spent to acquire all 4 of them, especially if it's like a recurring revenue, like something that's billed monthly. So that gets into a really cool space where it's like you now can spend money on growth, because if I'm spending 50,000 Rand a month on LinkedIn ads, that from that's going to be a machine that pumps out another 100,000 Rand, 200,000 Rand in sales. It obviously takes time and it takes data to get to that point.
For sure. So now, Gids, so for someone who's literally doesn't know anything about digital marketing, they'll obviously listen to this podcast, but they want to get cracking, they want to get started. What advice would you give to someone who is looking to start their own little digital marketing business?
Just start an actual, like a service business, an agency.
Like you did, yeah.
Yeah, I would say probably look at yourself first and realize like what your own skills are and what you like doing yourself. So, watch a video on YouTube that explains all the different fields within digital marketing. So, SEO, paid media, copywriting, web design, graphic design, just look at everything that falls within digital marketing and find the things that make sense for you. I was lucky for me that it was video editing, messing around with audio, creating podcasts, a bit of the sales, a bit of the design. But I was also very honest, and I knew that it wasn't copywriting. I'm terrible at copywriting. It frustrates me like crazy. So I think I'd start with that, is just really look at what you like doing, what you're good at. And then the second step would be go and find your first customer. So don't worry about building out a huge website and a brand and that kind of thing. Just literally reach out to people on LinkedIn, friends of friends, family, and try and like solve a problem for someone before they even really know that they have a problem. So go to a business and say, look, what you do is really amazing, but nobody knows about it because you don't have a good website. So let me solve that for you. I'll give you a much better rate than you'll find anywhere else because I'm getting started. I don't know, but just basically negotiate a way into getting your first customer, because as soon as that money comes in, then you've got a business. You've solved the problem for someone and you've got a real business. You can always get better at whatever it is that you want to do, and you can always branch out and do more things. But I would say, like, don't delay the process of going and getting that first customer, even if it's just something as small as designing a logo, launching a podcast, doing a video. Just get that first money in. That would be my advice.
Epic. And I believe that you've just spoken at a pretty cool event in Johannesburg. Do you want to just touch on that event before we wrap up?
Yeah. So last night, it was one of my clients has a son. His name is Marco, and he's 18 years old. And these guys started this media brand, which is pretty insane just for their age. And so the brand is called Hustlers Global. And they hosted an event in Sandton at a new hotel there called the At Sandton Hotel. And there was about 50 people there that they sold tickets to and hosted the whole event. And there was a couple of speakers. I was the third speaker there. And I'll be honest, if I'm going to be completely honest here, like I thought that I kind of bombed. Like I thought it wasn't great. I've never given a talk like that before. It's like, it's very easy to answer questions and to do Q&A, but to actually just stand up for 15 minutes and just talk about yourself or your life, it felt really weird, to be honest. And it made me I'm glad I did it though. Like, no regrets. I'm glad I did it because it made me realize like, I need to go and learn like how to do public speaking. I need to get very comfortable with this. I need to build confidence in like, my journey and my story and stuff. So yeah, it was cool. It was a cool learning process, and it inspired me to get better because some of the other speakers were really, well-spoken and natural. But yeah, it was one of those things like you proud of yourself for doing it, but also when you look back at it, you're like, hey, that was not my best or my brightest. I don't know. How are you with public speaking and that kind of thing?
Well, first of all, congrats. That's very cool what you did. And I wish Nicola was here today because she does that for a living. So she could give you some great advice. We'll have to get you back on the pod definitely in the future. But for me, I've been teaching for the last 5 years. So like, I know it's only standing up in front of, actually, I've also taught some adults and everything. I suppose that's only a small, like, 25, 30 people max. But I think just from teaching and the experience of standing up and, showing, basically just teaching, I think I'd be all right. But like the first one, you're going to be nervous. You're not like that confident, but the more that you do it, the better you'll get, Bruce. So hang in there. Exactly. I'm sure it was great. Is it recorded at all? Is there any way anyone can access that conference?
Yeah, they had cameras and stuff. So we haven't received any content or anything, but if we do get it, then we'll see. But I'll try and share it. I'll send it to you. You can give me some tips.
Epic.
But I can imagine, I can imagine you'd be good at that. Like you got the gift of the gab as well. I remember in Singapore, I was constantly cracking up at your comments. Like that's a big part of it as well. Just saying the right thing and getting people to laugh and like, creates release the tension. I felt like I got up there and I was very serious. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of want that icebreaker just to, settle the mood and get comfortable. Well, Gids, it's been an absolute pleasure. But before I let you go, where can people reach you if they want to check out your business or social media?
Yeah. So I would just say LinkedIn, honestly, like, just reach out on LinkedIn. So I'm sure my name will be in the show notes or even on the video stream, but just search the name on LinkedIn. Luckily, it is quite unique. There's not too many people with my name. So just connect on LinkedIn, send me a message saying you listened, what's up, I want to learn about lead gen or anything. I'll just keep it simple as that.
Epic. Cool. Well, Gids, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time, and we're definitely going to have to get you back on the show in a couple of months to talk more about digital marketing and see where we are in a few months' time.
No, I appreciate it. And thanks for you taking the time. Seriously, it was awesome to chat, and hopefully we'll hear more stories of your journey as well into the space. Maybe I can come on and ask you the questions if we can do it in reverse for the same listeners. So let me know. But thanks again for the time. It was awesome. Absolutely. Cool, Gids. Have a great day. Cool. Same to you. Cheers, bud. Cheers. Bye. For more news and content about ThinkConnect, go to www.thinkconnect.com or visit our Facebook or Instagram pages @ThinkConnect.